Tesla would have to do some giant boner thing, something horrific that would allow the rest of them to catch up. But even if they caught up, Tesla's going to move ahead. And that they're not going to sit still. So that means that they're going to have to move ahead. And when they move ahead, they're going to leave everybody else behind again.
Sandy Munro, for those of you who don't know, is one of the best engineers when it comes to costing vehicles. He breaks them down. He tells you what manufacturer did good, what did bad, where they could have spent more money and more resources, where they overspent money. And he generates reports that he sells to other manufacturers, competitors, and just in general to heavy industry. He's been widely known as one of the best in his field, and in the last year he's gained a lot of notoriety. He has his own YouTube channel, which you will find in the links. He is one of the best when it comes to talking about electric vehicles with authority. Which one is better from an engineering standpoint of view, which ones are the best, which ones are not so good. Now, in this interview with Meet Kevin, he talked a lot about electric vehicles. And I don't want to repeat it because everything he said basically I agree with. Where I disagree with and why we're doing this video is because he did a lot of projections about the future, which I completely disagree with. I'm gonna go over them. There's 3 main points, and at the end we'll see what you guys think about it.
Is the government our friend? No. If I'm plugging into electricity right now and I get it for next to nothing, like I can fill my car up for $11, what do you think's going to happen when gasoline starts to go away and everybody's driving electric? Let's see. Would it be a new tax? Oh no, the government would never do that, right? Yeah. Somebody's got to pay for those roads, and it's going to be electricity eventually.
So here's the first point where I disagree with him. He expects taxes to go on electricity. I think this is the wrong way, and I think it's not going to happen. It's easy to hide electricity and usage, like he's talking about going off grid. Then you don't pay any taxes. This will also not fly in Congress. However, where I believe and where it's already been proposed in a few places that taxes will happen is on tires. If you think about it, whatever car you have, it uses tires, and the more you drive it, the more you use the roads, the more it wears out, so you gotta buy new ones more often. I believe this is where taxes will go instead of charging for gasoline taxes once we have a high enough percentage of electric vehicles, and instead of charging electric vehicles just as electric vehicles. Taxes will go on new tires, and there might be more regulation on buying used tires or even having used tires for sale. That might become an issue. But I disagree with Sandy here that taxes are going on electricity. In my mind, taxes are going on tires. Let's keep moving.
Now, let's talk about hydrogen.
Yeah.
Hydrogen is not for everybody. I like the idea of going with a fuel cell. I've liked it for about 25 years. I wanted to take a Toyota Mirai. I called every one of my customers and I said, hey, give me some money. I'll tear this thing apart. I'll reverse engineer it. I'll tell you how it works. I'll tell you what that magic mesh is and how we could probably improve it. And I got a 0. Snake eyes. Nobody, absolutely 0 people wanted me to go and do that reverse engineering job. That doesn't happen very often if I make a recommendation. And the reason for that is because everybody figures that hydrogen is going to be the fuel of the future and it always will be. Well, you know what? The sun's been using hydrogen for quite some time and it seems to be working out for all of us. I think that it just hasn't met the right combination of things to make it happen. Number one, I think that trying to make an electric Class 8 truck using electricity is you're out of your mind, especially unless it's going to be riding on a pool table.
Okay, a few points about hydrogen. I'm gonna connect to a video from Real Engineering that explains why hydrogen as a fuel source is a really dumb idea, but I'm gonna give you a quick breakdown. You have 2 ways of getting hydrogen. One is through burning natural gas, and the other one is through using electricity, and quite a bit of it. Natural gas obviously is not the point of creating hydrogen because we're trying to move away from fossil fuels, so we're not going to look into that. The way with electricity is you have a whole bunch of chemistry happening, and at the end, you have hydrogen. It's an abundant element. It's a clean way of getting that fuel source. And then you have to transport that hydrogen to the gas stations, which are extremely expensive to build, in the millions of dollars. But you have two ways of doing that. One way is through driving trucks, presumably on hydrogen, or through creating pipelines, which is a very expensive proposition. Once you get to the expensive gas stations, they need to pressurize it. Once they pressurize it, you can pump it into your car, in your fuel tank that is also pressurized. It's so pressurized because when you drive a hydrogen vehicle, you're driving a hydrogen bomb. And the fuel tank needs to be able to withstand extreme stresses. So they're basically designed right now where you can shoot it with an AK-47 and it's not gonna rupture. Of course, that's very expensive to make. But once you do that, the hydrogen, when it goes to your car, what it does is it charges a smaller battery. So from electricity, you went to hydrogen, and then you go back to electricity to charge a battery that drives an electric motor. This is extremely inefficient way of having electricity driving a car. What we have right now is you have solar panels, for example, or electricity, charge a battery, drive it. This is way more efficient. Check out the video on real engineering to understand how much more inefficient hydrogen as a fuel source is. Not to mention the safety risks of basically driving a hydrogen bomb. The reason why he's been interested, like he says, for the last 25 years is because this is a technology that's at least 25 years old. And the reason why it hasn't come out sooner is mostly because of the safety of the fuel tanks, to prevent any kind of explosions in accidents. So, hydrogen can be very useful for using solar and wind energy generation as a utility scale battery. Basically what happens, for example, now in California, during the day you have extra electricity generated through solar panels. What happens is the utility company is required to use that green electricity, so they pay somebody out of state to get that electricity and use it somewhere. Now, if you have a hydrogen station, what you can do is have the utility company pay you to get that electricity, turn it into hydrogen. Then later on in the day, when demand is higher but you don't have enough sunshine for the solar panels, then the utility company comes back and tells you, hey, I have peak demand. Can I buy some electricity from you? So you sell it back to them, and then they get their electricity from a green energy source as their requirement is. So this is something that can work for hydrogen. It can become basically a huge battery and compete with batteries on the grid scale. Using it as a fuel source, transporting it to gas stations, putting it in your vehicle just so it can charge a small battery does not make any sense. Hydrogen will never be a fuel source for mass transportation. Let's keep going.
But I have a different view. If I'm going to make a VTOL, a vertical takeoff machine, and I don't have lightweight, what do you call them? Solid state batteries.
Okay.
I want hydrogen because I can pop up from my driveway. I can fly to a station that has hydrogen, land, change, go, done. And I can probably get, I don't know, I could probably pop in enough hydrogen to get me 500 miles. And you know what? You live in California, don't you?
Okay, this is the third point I'm going to be disagreeing with Sandy Munro on. Now, listen to what he says. He thinks that you can go from your driveway, pop in a VTOL, fly to a gas station, get some hydrogen, and fly away, become a flying hydrogen bomb, and fly to somebody else's driveway or a store's parking lot to do your business. Flying away from your driveway is not going to be happening anytime soon because VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, create a lot of air drag. That means when you fly off, you mess up your neighbor's backyard. Number two, VTOLs are extremely loud. They stay loud even when you're a few hundred feet away. So that noise will not be tolerated by regular people. when you have a new solution for a transportation system, it needs to be better in every way. This is not better in every way. Messing up your neighbor's backyard is not a good solution, and waking up the whole neighborhood is also not a good solution. Now, when it comes to hydrogen, hydrogen in theory can work, but the first time we have a hydrogen VTOL fall out of the sky and that fuel tank gets ruptured, you basically have a hydrogen bomb in a US city somewhere. This will never get approved, and if it does, the first time it happens, all VTOLs with hydrogen are done for hundreds of years. It's just not happening. Elon Musk has proposed and actually is already working and implementing his idea of using tunnels versus VTOLs, and his logic is very sound. You don't have anything flying over your head, you don't have anything noisy. If there's car accidents, the damage is limited because it's a tiny tunnel. The worst case scenario, you're gonna have a traffic jam in a tunnel. On top of that, the tunnels will require self-driving vehicles so they can go at high speeds, and it will require electric vehicles so there's no fuel emissions. So why would you choose to go flying over people's heads and basically have the same amount of time saved as driving under the cities? VTOLs that are, let's say, have a launch pad that are in some kind of a section where the noise they make and the air drag they make doesn't disturb everybody, can exist. But then you have to drive to that launch pad or walk to it. That defeats the purpose of you, first of all, not driving or getting somewhere fast. It's just not, then it doesn't compute anymore. And then you have to land somewhere, and where you land on that landing pad, you have the same situation. If you want to get from point A to point B, you have to go from the landing pad, either walk to where you want to go to or drive from where you want to go to, or get a Uber or something. But basically, the speed advantage disappears, especially when you compare it with self-driving cars and tunnels. It's just, there isn't going to be an advantage. This is why I disagree with him in general about VTOLs, and especially about hydrogen VTOLs. Hydrogen is not a fuel source. Whoever tells you that is wrong. Look at the video that I have linked in the description from Real Engineering. It will explain to you why it's not an efficient fuel source, and when it comes to flying, but basically you're flying a hydrogen bomb. Nobody will allow you to do that. It's just not going to happen. Hey, thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps me. And whenever you have a question, I read and answer all of your comments.